This week's Performance Anxiety features Jordon Zadorozny of Blinker the Star and Kelly Scott from Failure and Blinker the Star. This week we talk about the music the two of them have made together, including some spins with Lindsay Buckingham. We also talk about Kelly's uncomfortable knowledge of John Entwistle and Jani Lane. We also talk about UFC and some obscure engineering trivia. So please enjoy this week's Performance Anxiety with Kelly Scott and Jordon Zadorozny.
This is Jordon Zadorozny from Blinker the Star.
Kelly Scott of the band Failure, and you're listening to Performance Anxiety.
Oh, man.
You're not allowed to make mistakes.
Right.
Oh,
It'd be like me erasing the first half of your new record. As
Well, you know that story of Led Zeppelin 2 where the kid was in there? They had some kid in there engineering for Jimmy Page. No, it was Led Zeppelin 3. You know the beginning of...
Hi, in the middle of the night. Come on, man.
Celebration Day, right?
Celebration Day.
Yeah.
It sounds like a weird place to come in because there was a couple bars before that. Crossfade out of Friends. Celebration Day. Mm-hmm. The kid engineer guy erased the first couple bars. And you know what he did? Before anyone knew, he got up, left the room, and he was never heard from again. He never reappeared in the industry. And then he walked out the door and he's like, I'm done.
Wow. Well, he was right. He was right.
Did anyone ever give his name?
No, I don't know. It's in a couple of books. It's a funny story.
You know who a really good friend of mine is this guy, Evan Johns. He's Andy Johns.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy Phelan introduced me to him at Largo.
Yeah, he would probably know.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Ethan is the one. He's Glenn's son.
I know.
Producer, musician guy.
I know.
Then there's Evan, who's Andy's son.
Oh!
Crazy that did all their records.
Who produced the
was like
first couple?
All these bands.
Which one was it?
All these bands would hire Glenn and doing their drugs and getting fucked up and be really unreliable. So they would basically get rid of Glenn and hire Andy to do all their other stuff.
Oh, jeez.
Andy fucking partied. Andy actually died 5 years ago, still partying.
Yeah.
Quite different than his brother.
Remember the day Entwistle died?
Did I ever tell you about how I used to have to call him about jerking off?
That's what I was thinking about.
No, well, you've never told me this, so...
My first jobs in L.A. was basically like a quality assurance. Like people, when they call those sex lines, the next day, would have to call them back, like really sensitively. And
verify the credit card.
Make sure it was them, that used their credit card. And it was usually their kid, or it was lost or stolen, or their wife would pick up the phone and grill me on what this was about, and I couldn't tell them. But I would have time was living in Hawaii, so he was in a completely different time zone. So I'd have to call him at the same time
every day.
Make sure that it was him jerking off on his credit card. And really nice and really just like, yep.
This is already my favorite show.
The dark ages before porn was accessible.
Oh man.
Analog days.
Yes, the analog days of porn.
Analog telephone porn.
See, that's an album name for you right there. The analog days of porn.
That's it.
Call it Entwistle. Yeah. The first song is on my phone.
Well, the best was about 2 or 3 years later, The Who did a studio album. I was reading this interview with Pete Townsend at the time. The interviewer asked Pete, was John Entwistle missed on making this album? Sadly, no. Man, they're mean. They're mean to each other, aren't they?
A lot of those guys from those old bands are pretty angry towards each other. I don't know what happened.
And their families.
I think they always were. Like they're sort of, the English fans were so class dudes, like trying to fight their way into the club scene, fight with the band because it's like you had to get one tiny step up. They're still fighting in this. Like Fleetwood Mac. They're not like Lindsay gets kicked out of Fleetwood Mac.
The thing is, it takes two guys to replace him.
That's insane.
I love like, I think it's ridiculous being the biggest Lindsay fan in the world, but at the same time, I love that there's still drama. Like, there's still care enough to fight. It's still just not a paycheck. There's still egos. Like,
yep. Well, and the Davies brothers are the same way.
They won't get together in the same room. They can't do it.
That's crazy. So, Jordon, how did you worked with Lindsay? How did that all come about?
August Everywhere was made. I went out for lunch with Lenny Warrant, and they wanted to do another record. We loved it. Let's do another one. So I went out for lunch, and he said, out of all the people that I know, I want to work with.
And that guy knows everybody. I
just thought Prince wouldn't show up. So I said, Lindsay Buckingham. And he said, okay, I'll give him a call next week. He hasn't been over to the DreamWorks offices yet. He ran into him in a restaurant that weekend.
You're actually leaving out the best part. I seem to recall that we were on tour, and we got a care package to the hotel desk.
Yeah.
It was Lindsay basically demoing. It was like 2 of the songs.
Yeah.
Just like him.
So
guitar,
Lindsay took
playing the drums on the side of the acoustic.
I have them on my hard drive right now. I can play it in 2 seconds. Yeah, Lindsay took. I did 2 demos at home. Demoed them himself.
Wow.
And it was like, that was the trip listening to that. That was crazy. It sounded like Tusk.
Oh,
Lindsay
wow.
doing Blink of the Star songs. Like it was.
That's amazing. I mean, I've never heard of anything like that before. I mean,
yeah, well, he's a studio nut. So that was his first, first of all, sort of internalize it and then regurgitate it. You know, remember that song Moon Addict we had? Lindsay, immediately.
One where we slowed down the drums or something?
Exactly, yeah. And I remember you and Lindsay for hours were holding up naked kick drums and flicking them with your finger, and they had U87s. You'd have to do it 30 times to make it go.
Yeah, and sound like a timpani kind of.
Exactly. And I was you guys were taking 3 hours. He started doing drugs.
Meanwhile, I fucked on heroin the whole time.
Okay.
Oh, I was smoking weed in the other room. You guys were recording. I was
Well,
that was a long day.
So those were the songs that ended up, a couple of them being on Still in Rome. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Well, the most significant thing that happened was A Nest for Two eventually made it into, Mike Friedman got it in a film, basically.
Okay.
And it was in the last era of where they actually made the soundtrack Nest for Two. That was the real Fleetwood Mac one.
Oh, see, that's awesome because that's now something I have to hunt down because I wasn't aware of that one.
Yeah.
And then he was on a Flex Your Little Claws.
Oh, yeah. So that was part 2 was when we were doing Still in Rome in L.A. I hired that Robbie Adams cat.
That was probably really high for that.
You were doing drums for Girl in America at Metal Studio. It was Icon, it was called.
Icon.
Yeah.
Out in Burbank?
No, it was right in Hollywood, right near your old place on Poinsettia.
See, I knew there was some stuff that I forgot. But disclaimer, during that period and a couple years longer than that, I was pretty fucking wasted.
So memory might be spotty, but you got to listen to Girl in America again because you played the shit out of it.
Is it on either of those records?
Girl in America ended up on an album way later in 2013.
Oh. All right.
It's like I won't pronounce my own album.
Wait, that's your album and you don't know how to pronounce the title?
No, I don't. Everyone's still saying it many different ways, so feel shy about it.
That's
disclaimer, though, I haven't done drugs in 14 years.
That's a disclaimer.
I don't know.
Mark, what was your original question? I've forgotten.
We were just talking about how you met up with Lindsay and how that whole relationship got started because he appears on at least 2 albums of Blink of the Star.
Okay, so then, Kelly and I did part of Still in Rome up in Pembroke in the winter. Then we took those tracks down to LA and I hired this engineer to finish up a few tracks. Also, I had the run of John Fields, a producer. So there was kind of sessions happening all summer. While I was there, I got Andy Sturmer plays drums on because I was next door. And Fields said, hey, I got the drums set up. Do you want Sturmer to play a track? Okay. And Lindsay came in and played on that one and Flex Your Little Claws, which Kellii, you videotaped, and I have it. That's the videotape of Lindsay playing the guitar solo on that song.
Yeah.
You set it up in the corner so he wouldn't notice.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. I actually ripped that off of YouTube. I have the audio of that myself because that was just so damn cool.
Just the solo? Like,
yeah. Yep.
It's cool, eh? He's playing my black guitar, the Les Paul.
Yes.
Oh, he didn't charge us anything?
Yeah, he made me really uncomfortable with his tell me what to do all the time.
I know. Be Lindsay.
Play something. That's why we brought you in. I wanted to sound like you.
It's definitely sweet. Like that whole thing, never meet your idols.
Yeah.
He's not part of that.
Oh, that's
cool.
He will live
cool
up
guy.
to expectations.
Such a cool guy.
So speaking of him not charging you guys, I noticed, Kellii, on your website that people can send music to you and you'll play drums on whatever they send to you.
Yeah.
So if I record the biggest piece of shit and email it over to you, I can have the drummer for Failure on my piece of shit tune.
I will make one section of that piece of shit not a piece of shit.
That's awesome. All right. I'm gonna have to start a GoFundMe for that because I can't afford you, but I'm going to try to figure that out how to do that.
Well, no, I don't know. My prices are pretty fair.
Your prices are good. I'm just really poor. So I'm not arguing that point. I think your price is actually quite reasonable. I just think that I have no money. So, so Kellii, you've worked with some pretty amazing people. I was looking at a list here, and so you've worked obviously with Failure. You've also worked with Christina Aguilera, Linda Perry's Sessions, Pink, James Blunt, Oftamar, Veruca Salt, KT Tunstall, Scissor Sisters, Dr. Dre.
Scissor Sisters?
Yeah.
What song?
Actually, a lot of that stuff is I was Linda Perry's session drummer for like 7 years.
Remember.
Wow. So all of those records that I did, the Scissor Sisters, Christina, Pink, KT,
Faith Hill.
Majority of that stuff was Faith Hill, Dixie Chicks, like all of that was in her. I would go out there 5 days a week and play on records.
Cool.
Wow, man, that's amazing.
That was a pretty mind-blowing gig.
That's a fun life.
Well, I'm a huge Linda Perry fan. I have been since Four Non Blondes, and I was always disappointed they never came out with that second album they started. But
they tried, it didn't work out.
No, unfortunately, I got a chance to see him live at the Stone Pony back early mid '90s, something like that. So that was really awesome.
Things, I think things change a little bit when you've got one person in the band that's famous. Others sort of need to do it for whatever reason more. There's a lot of disagreements, a lot of resentment, a lot of jealousy.
Yeah. Well, I heard, and this is the thing about YouTube is you can find anything on it. And I've seen some sessions from that second album, and some of those songs went on to become her first solo album. Yeah, and that was a great album. I thought that was really underrated.
There was some cool stuff on there. She did that with an old friend of hers from San Francisco that has this cool band from the desert. They're like kind of the precursor to Queens of the Stone Age and all that stuff. They're like the guys that they look up to. They were them and Goss came up together.
Okay.
Desert.
Oh, cool.
What are they called? They have kind of a funny, weird name.
Where were they from?
They were from the desert. Him and Lindsay became friends up in San Francisco. He lived up there for a time, but he's the drummer for this band, this desert band.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them did that solo record together.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was when I looked at your list of credits and I thought, it's funny because when I think of your work, I think mainly of Failure and Blinker, and I didn't really think of you as and I guess maybe just because I didn't really know, I didn't think of you as a session drummer. And there's so many different styles here. Is it difficult to switch from one to another depending on what session you're doing?
I mean, it definitely, on my part, it took a little bit of, there was definitely a learning curve to get out of being just a rock drummer and being able to play, just a lot softer and sometimes more intricate and more studio-y. Studio-y and live is completely different.
Oh, okay.
So that took a little bit of time to develop. I could always play different styles of music. It just took a little time to develop not playing them hard.
Did that work well for doing the sessions with Dre?
Dre's was really easy. His session was actually for that record that just came out. Me and a 72-piece orchestra did A Change Is Gonna Come. You know that old Sam Cooke tune?
Yeah.
He is the engineer that originally engineered that at Capitol in the big room.
Wow.
And basically it was like the first minute, 30 seconds of that. It was literally the session time was booked for 45 minutes. So you had to set up, and we ran through it like once or twice, and the session was over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Old school.
There's actually, that movie that they just made? Dre and Jimmy Iovine, the one that was on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a 5-part series, so I'm watching the whole thing, and on the 5th day, the very last scene, video camera go into the Capitol building, and there's the orchestra, and it's going to the left side of the orchestra, and it's almost to me, and it ends right there.
Oh, of course.
Almost. That's the story of my life. Almost.
I've heard that a few times. That's the story of my life too. I almost did something with it, but we'll get there one of these days.
I'm the anonymous.
Well, not too much. Not to guys like me, because this is what I thought was really cool. I was a big Failure fan back in the early 90s. I started off with Magnified, and I'm a completist. So if I get a record I like, I'm going to find whoever was involved in it, and I'm going to go find everything that they've done. And so I was a huge Failure fan. So I saw that it was Ken, Greg, and you. And I was like, all right, these guys are really good. And I would go to this record store, and I would just I'd be there for hours looking at records. And I picked up Bourgeois Kitten by Blinker, and I said, that sounds familiar for some reason. I'm not really sure why. And I picked it up. I picked it up, and
it was my first hi-hat credit.
That's the thing.
My only hi-hat credit.
I flipped it over and I saw the credits. It may have even been an open copy. I just opened it and started looking through the credits, and I saw Ken Andrews and Kelly Scott. And I'm like, all right, I'm getting it. And that's how it became on
that also?
Yeah,
Ken played drums. Greg played on it too. But drums. I think he played drums. That's
maybe. I know. Yeah, Jordan seems to be frozen here. Oh, my hand's enormous. Well, anyway, that's how I became a Blinker fan. Oh, we lost him. Yeah. All right.
They're just now getting internet. They haven't worked out all the things talking about sports.
Not at all.
Good.
That's my other.
I like UFC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a big UFC fan.
Man, we should have you on our other show when we
watched the fights last night. Do you watch the fights at all?
No, I haven't gotten into it. It's
dude, it's the best. Those guys are going in there and killing each other for a couple grand.
Jeez. Oh, hey.
Like, to me, that's what sports is about. You're out there, like, swinging at a ball or throwing a ball, and you're wearing fucking 50 pounds of gold chains.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Well, I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Video isn't on.
Oh, what do I have to do? Is there a button?
There's a little video.
Yeah. Talk to my QA guy. There we go.
Woo.
Yeah, stay lean back. My screen, because it's a double screen, it's chopping your head up and it's freaking me out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like Dirty Deeds or something. Oh yeah, there we go.
I got my Tom Selleck's on today. I've been really into these. You know?
Well, we were just talking MMA, so.
So when you got cut off, Jordan, we were talking about, didn't Greg play drums or something on Bourgeois Kitten?
Yeah, it was Ken's idea. I think Ken was like, I might have said like, I want it to be like My Bloody Valentine or something. And he's like, Greg was a little out of shape though on the drums. I remember like.
So how did you meet up with Ken and everybody in Failure?
Mike Friedman. Yeah, Michael Friedman. He was Jordan's manager at the time. We were up in Canada in the early 90s with Tool, and him and Melissa Oftermeyer came down to the show. And we hung out, like went to a party at his place. Him and Ken stayed in touch. And when he started working with Jordan, he gave a ring and asked if he wanted to work with you. I remember we went and saw Jordan. They were coming into town. They played at the Whiskey, and we all went down and saw him. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we were all pretty young and innocent back then.
Yeah. We all were.
We all weren't, no.
It feels like you were.
But I remember that night very, very well. I remember coming up because Mike, my manager, gave Ken a cassette of the demos of the first album or the first album, the first Blinker album. Ken was like, oh, yeah, this is cool. I can get into it. But when we came out to L.A., these guys were all at the show, all the Failure guys, and Dave Diamond hung out, and then someone suggested, well, why don't you go in the studio and do a demo? Okay. So we went up to North Hollywood with the touring band. Remember, it was the same place Lee Aaron had worked in. We were like, oh, cool. But that's how we all met. And then within a year, I was out there recording, and at the Oakwoods, yeah.
You remember Michael Blue?
Of course, yeah.
Michael Blue stayed up there, and we used to take those big mirrored doors off of the clock. Weird Australian guy that would bring up mounds of Coke, and we would make these lines, these 6.5-foot lines from one end of the mirror to the other. And we take, the cardboard piece that keeps your hanger straight on the bottom?
Yeah.
I remember that show. You guys did the show at the Viper Room.
Yeah.
A room full of models, I remember.
They busted in. His wife owned this hoity-toity clothing company, St. John's, and she rented a bus and modeled in all of these gals that worked for her. Bought us all these three-piece suits and pocket watches.
He was footing the bill for everything. Remember his album?
My idea. I was like, we gotta look like we've already made it. Look and act like you've made it, and the ascension will be quick and easy. You know what? He's written a bunch of massive hits for people.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
He owns Fleetwood Mac's old studio out in the valley, out in Ventura. One that their manager owned.
Rumbo.
No, the one their manager owned.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, he bought that place. Writes Colby Collette and all the, not top, but he's had a few number one or top 10 hits over the last years.
I just remember going to parties with him and all wasted, but the acoustic guitar would come out. Michael Blue could play any Paul McCartnney and or Wings song, start to finish, perfectly on the acoustic guitar and sing it perfectly. Any obscure Wings song, like Arrow Through Me or whatever you could throw at him, he could do it.
And Squeeze.
Exactly, yeah.
He knew his serious English pop, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Didn't he meet her when he was playing in the pub in Aspen?
No, he had actually, yes. I think he did.
He was just playing. He was just an English guy.
Yeah.
And he meets Miss World.
And then she bought him a house with a Les Paul-shaped pool.
Oh, jeez.
I remember he would show up at the Wilton House, this sort of rundown ragtag house of Hollywood misfits that, everyone's got $200. Innocently enough, he'd just go, hey, who wants to see my car? It's fucking awesome. Like a kid. It was so great. He just was he wasn't even showing off. He was just in a good mood.
He was enthusiastic. All right, so Failure. Let's go back to Failure for a second. Failure put out, well, the first album was really good, but Magnified and Fantastic Planet were incredible. And then you guys took an enormous hiatus.
Woke up for a very long time.
Yeah. So what was the impetus for getting back together? How did that all happen?
Ken and Greg had children, and they started hanging out again.
Usually that breaks bands up, I think.
They had children during the breakup.
Okay.
And they don't have a whole lot of like close friends. I mean, I suppose I don't really have that many close friends anymore either, but in general, they didn't have a whole lot of close friends, and they were both having children at the same time, and, you know, it's a new and scary thing for people, I hear. I don't know. I have dogs.
Oh, it is. It is.
I can imagine it can be scary.
I've got 3, 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah, so they just started hanging out and doing play dates, and I think probably 3 or 4 years into that, Greg just said, hey, you want to write music together? So they started writing, and about 6 months later, they decided that the writing was turning into something, and Ken called me. It was like, hey, and gave me the background. I don't know if you know this, and Greg and I have been hanging out for a while, and we've been writing some songs, and want to do an EP, or still didn't really know what could have been done with it.
Right.
But as soon as I entered and we recorded the first 5 songs, other people found out, and they were like, you got to make a record. I'll be your manager. And then touring, and, it just kind of snowballed, and we more or less went with it.
You guys are recording. Are the songs, and I guess it's mainly more for you, Kellii, are the songs pretty much completed and they tell you what to do, or they saying, all right, just here's what we've got, do what feels right?
The music for the most part is completed. Sometimes, depending on something I do, there may be an arrangement change. But when they give me the demos, obviously there's programmed drums on there. Definitely a guideline.
Okay.
Sometimes it's pretty close to like what I would actually play. But no, there's no one going, hey, you got to play this or you got to play that.
Do you get like a writing credit for that kind of stuff?
The song, it sounds like a song. It's not like I'm going, oh my God, why did they program this? I have to go about like rewriting a bunch of stuff. Okay. I just more or less play it the way I would play it like a drummer.
So do you get writing credits for stuff like that, or?
Yeah.
That's good. I know. I've been looking at. I look at old credits, and you look at Beatles stuff, and you see it's all Lennon McCartney, and Ringo had to work on some of that stuff and make the drums his own, but he didn't get any writing credits. So I was just wondering if that's a common practice.
I don't know how it worked in the Beatles, but I imagine Ringo may have been told what to play quite often.
Ringo's just a puppet.
I agree with you. He still should have gotten some publishing because he's Ringo fucking Starr.
Yeah. And
nobody else, just by him playing on those records the way he played, they become a Beatles song instead of John Lennon or Paul McCartney's solo album. So I'm more of like the Led Zeppelin school, where when you look at one of their records, like everyone gets credit.
Yeah.
Even though, Page writes the song, but then they jam it out and arrange it, and
like they gave Bonham a songwriting credit on Kashmir just because groove was so integral to the whole vibe of the track.
But honestly, in the previous incarnation of Failure, going back to like We Were Green and didn't really know. I didn't know that I was supposed to ask for credit. I was just very happy to be where I was.
Okay, so I didn't realize that would be something you would have to ask for. I guess I never thought of it that way.
Well, when you join an already established band that already has 2 writers in the band, and that's kind of how they've been doing everything for several years, at some point you kind of have to speak up and ask for it.
I guess I want to ask Jordon this question here. At what point you've put out some really great albums, especially the last one, Eight of Hearts. That's a fantastic album. How do you go about recording it? I mean, is it just you? Or are you pulling people in? And at what point do you realize it's ready? It's especially because Blink of the Star, for all intents and purposes, is you. So
yeah,
I mean, I imagine if it was me, I would be working on it. I could go through the entire thing and never actually finish it because I would always be working on one album. How do you get to the point where you say it's done? I'm releasing it.
Well, let me just give you the most recent example. Today I finished a song. I started it 6 months ago. So it just sort of like gets to a point where it only takes 1 or 2 nights work where you sort of have like everything else comes out really quickly and then I just mix it. So it's just, I'm not, I'm fussy, but that's one thing I don't have a problem with is knowing when something's done.
And how has recording and making music and even selling it changed since you guys started in the early 90s?
Well, it's completely different. I think we've all kind of like took a bigger hand in the business part of it nowadays because, there's less to go around. So you basically got to really get it. But yeah, the business is totally different. I'm sort of more self-sufficient. So it's more boutique-y and handcrafted, and in the end, thing that you did all the artwork and the mastering, all kind of done in a much smaller scale, but to more exacting standards. There's not like, the mastering guy's not going to fuck up the album. And
you produce a lot of other people's albums at this point, right?
That's what I do for a living. That's what I do every day.
Kellii, Failure's coming out with a new album. I heard when you guys were recording Fantastic Planet, you focused on one song at a time.
The last record like that also.
Oh.
We just locked ourselves away for 6 months, wrote and recorded the entire record, and then released it with a video.
So this album is coming out as a bunch of separate EPs. The LP5,
yeah, because last year when we got together, everybody had so much stuff going on. Like I've just started working. My wife was working up until last year, and her job went away. And I was just kind of like, well, why don't you? I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like to love something and always have to work a 9-to-5 job and never really get a chance to do it wholeheartedly.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what that's like.
So I stepped up. I had an opportunity to get this job, and, it was for the both of us. So I was doing that, and Ken had some stuff going on, and Greg just had a baby. So we were all in different places in our life, so much so that we weren't going to be able to just lock ourselves away somewhere for 6 months.
Right.
So this way we decided to kind of do it more like what Magnified was done, where we would take 4 songs at a time. Ken and Greg would build them and write them, and then we book a live room and record the drums in a day, and then we would release them in sections like that. But we started with coming up with the concept is we came up with the entire album artwork in a way that we could split the artwork up into 4 pieces. So each release has a section of the artwork, a section of the title, and a section of the music.
Whoa.
When you put them all together, you get an entire record. The 4th installation obviously being the physical record with the physical and completed artwork and title.
So there'll be a finished track listing of all 12 or whatever songs. Yeah.
And each EP has its own artwork. So when you put all 4 of them together, you see the full album artwork. With some stuff filled in that you only see if you have the albums, and it like builds an entire picture.
My next question for you is, I've looked at some of the old videos from Failure. Is it hard to drum in a button-down shirt?
What video is that?
Oh, shoot. I was watching it yesterday. I got to remember which one it was. I'm not I can pull it up, but
it's stuck on. That's one of the only videos where I'm wearing clothing.
Yeah, you guys had a clothing person on set. Kellie's not wearing that to the bar.
Yeah.
It was fine for a video. I would never play something like that live because just from all the sweat, it winds up becoming like 4 to 5 pounds heavier. So by the time you're 30 minutes into a set, you're like slugging around all this, blobber.
I think they had you in a button up too in the Below the Sliding Doors video we did in Vancouver.
Yeah. That video was so cool.
See,
that's so cool. I know. You look great in that.
I did that. And they were like, wait a minute, we got that. That was cool.
That was the best shot of the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, I was watching the DVD of Golden the other day, and the one thing I noticed is that you guys do some great behind-the-scenes work. Greg doesn't say a whole lot. There's a video where he's supposed to be doing commentary, and it starts off with... Yeah, this is the video. And it may have been Stuck on You, or this is the video for Stuck on You. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, I hope you enjoyed that. And that was
that's the humor.
That was pretty much it. That was all.
That's definitely part of it.
Is there a lot of humor in Failure? Because it doesn't always come across. Ken seems to be, and Greg both seem to be very serious.
I think in general, as a group, we're definitely more comfortable with all sides of our personality as a group. There are unfortunately not a lot of, they get to see the side where, like, Greg doesn't talk much.
Yeah.
So what's Ken's attitude? It depends on where and who he's with. There are moments where you can start talking to him, get on a subject that he cares about, he won't shut up.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's the same way. It's just a matter. Like, I'm really easily induced. I grew up moving around a lot, so like making friends really quickly part of my DNA.
Right.
And they're a little bit more. I don't even know what the word. What's the word for that?
A little bit more reserved.
Discerning.
Okay.
Circumspect.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good word.
Also, there's also a little bit of like, especially for something like that, it's kind of weird, and like looking at a video and you're supposed to record dial. That's kind of weird. That'll take talk right out of you. It can be weird for sure.
That's true.
So, Kelly, how do you know Jani Lane? Or how did you know him?
When I first moved to LA, in like the late 80s, my older brother and I, because when I moved out here, obviously I didn't know anybody. And somehow we got this weird job where I wound up delivering drugs for like one of the biggest drug dealers in the valley.
You have to apply for that, or?
No, I stumbled into it through my brother.
Okay.
We met a guy, and through that guy, we met a guy, and that happened to be the guy. And I needed a job, and I was like, yeah, sure, it's great money. So I would take the Coke down to the Sunset Strip, and because I had all this Coke, that's how I would meet people.
Hey, it works.
Less, and that's sort of how I built, like, my little got into, I play drums and let's jam and let's do that. And, people talk to people and, all of a sudden you start getting into bands and.
At drums and Coke. I'm perfect for you guys.
But he, at the time I was going out with this girl, I didn't actually know him. But the reason I was at the Rainbow, and he was there, I also had this girlfriend who went to see Warrant. And she never came home. And her and I broke up shortly after that.
Okay.
Because no good. I knew she was up to no good. I didn't know exactly what, but I knew it was worth breaking up over.
Okay.
So I'm at the Rainbow, and there's Jani Lane, one of the guys who won. And my older brother, of course, who's all about respect and things like that, is like, aren't you going to say something? Aren't you going to say something? Like, kind of coaxing me. And like, now he's calling me out. I've got to do something. And I said something about, my girlfriend going to the show and you fucking asshole. And he said something back kind of like, oh yeah, not only did I fuck her, but the whole band did. And at that point, he kind of had his back. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's 2 stories. The disco floor, which is where I would hang out. That's where coke is my best. So he had his back to the stairs, where probably like 40 stairs at the bottom, which is where the restaurant is. And like shortly after he said that, within moments, I just kind of did one of those, like reached my hands out and gave him a nice kick in the chest, catapulted and rolled down the stairs. Pretty much my experience with him. By that point, like security saw what was going on and heard what he had said, and they were kind of like, you probably shouldn't have said that, and just I'm not sure if they probably didn't throw him out because he was Jani Lane. They probably took him somewhere safer for his well-being.
Yeah. Biggest loser, Jani Lane. Anyway.
Yeah. Oddly, though, I didn't know from Orlando, Florida.
Oh.
Flash forward a couple years later, I'm in Orlando, Florida, visiting all my, high school friends, most of which are like kind of jockey and rednecky.
Right.
And we're walking down a street in downtown. We look across the street, and there's Jani Lane's Sunset Strip. Out comes Jani Lane.
Oh.
He's walking down the street, and we're walking down the street, saw me, and literally crossed across to the other side.
Oh, yeah. He's like, I don't want to deal with this.
I don't want to get kicked down any. Well, I don't know how many flights of stairs Orlando has, but I don't. Jordon, you got anything that can top that story? I don't.
No. I've been in this studio for 15 years. I control everything. Nothing happens.
Man, so I only get one gangbang story per episode, I guess. Well, let me ask you. Let me ask each of you guys one more question before I let you go, because I know you guys have lives. If I was to look through your music collection right now, whatever you're listening to music on, is there anything that I would find there that would be kind of surprising to me, something I wouldn't expect? I know Jordan's looking around like, I got to find something.
George Michael?
Okay. That's a little unexpected.
Probably, I think like, a lot of the 60s and 70s stuff, like it wouldn't be a far stretch to think that I would like it. Cool old pop and normal run-of-the-mill rock bands and Rihanna.
Oh, okay.
So, not this latest Rihanna record, but the previous one.
Umbrella? That song?
Yeah.
That song is so good.
That whole record, I can't believe no one bought that record. It's such a brilliant record.
I'll have to check that out because I didn't buy it. That's
a cool record.
What about you, Jordon? Anything different, unusual? I know you got a wide palette.
But I'll tell you who's amazing is and whose record you guys should both check out. Who is teetering on the mainstream, but she's an old cat like us. She's Charlotte Gainsbourg.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Is spectacular from last year, 2017. Check it out, like when you hang up.
I did see. I don't know. Maybe you had posted something about that, but that is familiar to me.
I posted a bunch of songs a couple months ago when I first got into it because it just
in English.
It goes back and forth, but mostly English. Yeah.
I've heard my wife has a couple of her previous. She like really got into French speaking music for a while, especially like older 60s pop.
Yeah, there's great stuff because France didn't have the tradition of rock and roll, so they're sort of like unencumbered by the blues. They don't have that tradition of like, England and America. In France, they had no tradition of that, of rock and roll. They come at pop music from a different angle, and it's.
Is it your Canadian influence coming out with all the French artists, or is it just your wide palette?
Well, my girlfriend's Quebecois, so I definitely am speaking.
All right. Well, I just did think of one more question I wanted to ask you, Jordon, that I had forgotten about. Is it tough to run a studio with 2 kids?
Not when you're divorced, because mom does most of the heavy lifting.
Well, there you go.
No, I just had them here for 2 days, and at Sydney Engineering. Cal, remember Truly?
Yeah.
Of course, Mark knows Robert Roth.
Yeah.
So Robert has a new band called Little Spirits. Amazing. Hi Bloody Valentine meets Patti Smith or something. He asked me to play drums on a track last week, and sent a text just as I was just about to go out. My kid was on the tractor outside, saw this message, and it was like, "Oh, I saw on Instagram you have your drums. Bust out something quick today." I was like, I really want to do this. The studio here, it's like built into the house and stuff. And when Dad goes into the control room, it's sort of like, oh, it's Dad's off on a mystery. Don't bother. I was like, buddy, can you help me? Of course, 9-year-old kids know how to run computers better than we. No problem. He did his first engineering job on Rob.
Make sure you get credit.
Absolutely. It'll be his second credit. Sydney's on Mike's first album. Oh. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I guess before we let you go, where can people find you guys, social media, if they want to follow you and follow the music you're making?
Kellii Scott and stuff, or Failure.
All right, and that's 2 L's, 2 I's.
Yeah.
All right, Jordon.
The most active Blinker stuff going on is probably on Facebook and Spotify. So I would direct people there. A little bit of fun on Instagram, not too much. And Twitter's a fucking dead zone out there.
Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time tonight.
Oh, one last thing. Check out, it's Christine.
Oh, yes!
Hey, man, I appreciate you guys coming on. If you guys ever want to come back on, just let me know. Together, individually, we can get some more.
See you, Cal.
We'll get some more gangbang stories.
What's this Ross thing that you're talking about? Ross, is this